going on, Jeromes? Happy Sunday. Happy end of preseason. And 53-man cuts should be coming in precipitously. Going to do up some Q&A, as well as make sure to check out the store, purpleftw.net. Otherwise, producer Allie will yell at me and treat me very poorly. First one, the anonymous one. With the amount of content you put out, especially ramping up during the season, how do you handle it? Have time for it all with your commitments to YouTube, day job, being a dad, husband, etc. So I think it comes down to either things are important or they're not, and either things are priority or they are not. And that's really about it, where I always do carve out family time, and I obviously need time to work. And with the YouTube thing, I always, when this started, like I just did content that I wanted to see, and that's really where it is now. So that's why we're a little bit different, and take things from a different perspective. And I don't know, it's always fun to me, and it brings in a couple shekels, which is fantastic. But I do it because it's fun, and I like that we built up this community. Also, we have 69,420 subs. Actually, more than that now, because I'm a child. But yeah, I mean, what else? Yeah, again, we started doing this content because I was looking for content like this and didn't find it. So now we just fill the niche. It's just sort of how supply demand works. But yeah, make time for it because it's a blast. Unfaithful Fullerton. At what point do we hit the panic button on lack of O-line free agent pickups? Also, if Lucien has a minimal impact this year due to lack of production, how would you feel? Except from undisclosed location, Wills bang a jelly bean or two on the Vikings Super Bowl champs one time, man. I love showing. Hey, thank you. I would say if they don't solidify things along the offensive line this year, I mean, obviously it's time to panic. But for the O-line, I mean, Darrisaw and O'Neal are 10 poles. Ezra is in a contract year. Hopefully Ed Ingram steps up in year 2. And Bradbury is still a question mark, but Chris Cooper thinks that he can change him. And Bradbury did play well in spurts last season. So, I mean, if they still miss here, I think doubling, tripling down on offensive line does make a ton of sense. And with Scene, I actually think that Scene's impact is going to be minimal because you do have Harrison and Bynum and Metellus as the 3 safeties ahead of them. So, I mean, minus an alien abduction, it's going to be tough for Scene to get on the field, but I'm still not panicking with him per se. Next up, Hooder, huge fan of the channel. Was the top 3 Vikings game you watched between 2010 and 2020? So, all right, so Miracle would be 1. I don't know, like specific games, they all sort of bleed together. So that precludes 09 if we're going from there. The TCF Jarius Wright, like 75-yard screen pass from Teddy versus the Jets. I mean, that one was pretty good. God, what was 2020? I'm sure I'm missing some pretty blatantly obvious games in there, but I'm sure there's a couple of really good ones in 2017. Oh, the Thanksgiving game, 2017 against the Lions. That one was fun. In Detroit. Well, obviously in Detroit. But yeah, off the top of my head, can't really recall specific ones. Next up, 84 GOAT. Oh, no. Yeah. All right. So the Christian Ponder Tim Tebow game. I forget which year specifically, but it was at the Dome, and it ended up being like 35-33. I forget what it was, but both of them put up insane Lulu numbers, and it was just a great quarterback battle of Ponder versus Tebow. That one was good, man. The Blizzard game. The Blizzard game against the Ravens, week 14 of 2013. That was the first episode of the audio podcast. So there you go. 84 Go 28. How do you really feel about Kwesi and the players he has drafted? And also, why do you think Minnesota always ignore the offensive line situation? Thanks. Well, I think ignore is a misnomer because if you look, Darrisaw is a first-round pick. Ezra is a second-round pick. Bradbury is a first-round pick. Ed Ingram and Brian O'Neal are second-round picks. So, I mean, they're investing into the offensive line. And if everything goes well and they're healthy and have continuity, they should be okay. And with Kwesi, I like that he's approaching things from a different tact, and I do believe in the players that he's drafted. I do believe in the moves that he's made, but also we don't have a choice. that whole thing. But I think that Kwesi is shrewd. I like that he takes calculated risks and gambles and chances, because no risk it, no biscuit. That whole thing. Or, you can't win the lotto unless you buy a ticket. Let's hear. Cello Charlie, do you have your eye on any players from other practice squads you like the Vikings to try and sign after cuts? Not specifically. I haven't really paid attention to too much of the rest of the league's preseason, but I'm sure that the Vikings will probably bring in 2, 3, 4 players that are not currently on the roster. The Wheatley podcast for the roster and the practice squad, probably the practice squad. How long did it take for your channel to start getting views? I just started a sports podcast with you being a huge inspiration. Hey, thank you. And I want to know how much work it takes to really get good viewership. Well, we sort of like backed into this where, so the podcast used to be audio only, and then we would just toss up the audio version on YouTube, with like the logo, but no visuals. But then it started getting some traction and some subs, and then we sort of just started doing videos and already had a built-in base. So I think we backed into it lucky. But my thing is, like, it's all about getting reps, and I feel like a lot of people who start out, like, they have too high of expectations, where it's, the saying is you work for years to become an overnight sensation or overnight success, that thing. And I feel like a lot of people will, do a couple videos, and of course your first couple videos are going to be horrible. I mean, mine are still horrible. We've done a bunch of them, but you're going to be really uncomfortable in front of camera. People don't really have like natural ability. Well, some do, but it's mainly, it's a skill, it's a trade, it's like anything else. And the more reps you get, the better you're going to get. And I feel like a lot of people just quit, where they feel awkward in front of the camera, or they don't get the views that they wanted right away. But I say, just, it's not really about the views. It's about what you want to do. It's like why we at the top, we talked about, we do this because it's fun and because it's content that we were looking for that we didn't find. And, people seem to like it. And that's what we're doing here. So that's why I think, just like, every single rep is going to get you closer to where you want to get. And that's true with anything in life. Tomahawk, who do you think will be the young breakout players on defense and offense minus Addison and Pace Jr.? All right, so let's answer that first. Offense and defense, breakout player. Ty Chandler. I think Ty Chandler has a good shot. I think Brandon Powell could be interesting. Hopefully Ed Ingram will be the breakout player. I mean, Josh Oliver being a leash on this offense will be kind of nice. Defensively, besides Pace Jr., I mean, Asamoah, Blackman, Evans, Metellus, hell yeah. I think Jaquelin, possibly. Davenport, sure. I mean, there's a lot of them. Also wondering your thoughts on when Hitman retires. Will there be a coaching job, or preferably with our team? Yeah, I think if Harrison wants to get into coaching, I mean, he certainly could do it. I think Harrison has a lot of other outside interests outside the game, though. But my vote for a coach would be Metellus. Like, I would like to wager a large sum of money that Josh Metellus gets into coaching, and he's really good. And he's really, really good, man. Viking Jeff. Favorite stage of any given Vikings team rebuilding, ascending, peak, total dumpster fire? I don't know, like, I kind of like the 2011 dumpster fire. It was just hilarious. But ascending is always fun, because when a team peaks, you never know that it peaks, unless you win the Super Bowl, obviously. But ascending is always fun because it always gives you hope. Like, there's hope that the next spot is going to be the summit, as opposed to a false summit. Nicholasaurus, could you see a world where B-Flow stays another year and have multiple years the same O coordinator and D coordinator? It's possible. I think that you can't ignore his lawsuit against the league and the teams, so that may hinder him with some teams. But again, all it takes is one, and you listen to all his former players, you listen to the current players. Like, he is demanding, but he also gets it done, and he's extremely talented. I mean, you hear Belichick talk about Flores too. It's like, yeah, Flores deserves to be a head coach. he probably will get a couple of shots this year, especially if and when he turns around the Vikings defense. But selfishly, if he stays for 2 years, I think that's a huge win for the Vikings. Todd Haysbrook. If we go 9-8 or 8-9 this year, we bring back Kirk Cousins. If not, what free agent quarterbacks are there for us to look at? I think that they still would bring back Kirk. Other than that, free agents. I don't know. How long is Jimmy G's deal with the Raiders? Actually, I would have zero interest in bringing in like unless it's specifically like a Band-Aid quarterback. No, like if you got rid of Kirk, just go fish in the draft or roll with Jaron Hall or do what you got to do. Zeke, who's your top 3 favorite corners on the team right now? Le'Veon Skull. Oh, top 3 favorite corners? Oh, well, does Najee Thompson count? Probably not because he's a special teamer, but Blackman, Evans, Murphy. Yeah, Murph Dog. That's right. Let's hear. K Fizzle. How comfortable would you be for trading Hawkins for either Jonathan Taylor or an offensive line piece, or just keep Hawkinson and pay them? I mean, keep Hawkinson and pay, but hell, I mean, trade Hawkinson for Quentin Nelson. Go ahead. Jonathan Taylor. DHV. Who's your non-Viking sleeper team this year? I don't think that the Jaguars count. I think everyone's pretty awake on them. Sleeper team. I guess the Falcons. Like, if Desmond Ridder could play Brock Purdy-ish and just distribute to those playmakers, I think Atlanta could get really interesting. Also, I like their new defensive coordinator. So, I mean, also it's a very winnable division. So maybe the Falcons. I was going to say Colts, but I mean, Jonathan Taylor is going to be deuces. But I think Anthony Richardson is the ultimate wild card. I think that Richardson is going to be a ton of fun this year, man. Eric Anderson. I think Dalton Reisner has already decided where he's going to play and was just waiting for training camp to be over to sign. It's a possibility, but also, I mean, it always comes down to the money. So maybe he's holding out for more money, or if he was holding out for a guaranteed spot, or he was potentially seeing if there would be an injury, which would increase his demand, which would increase the money, and also de facto give him a starting spot. Don Delato, thoughts on NFL table reads? So it's a really funny commercial that NFL put out, basically just leaning into the whole thing that it's scripted. That's where you got the Kirko wakes up dripping line. Is pretty funny and pretty good self-awareness by the league, which is not known for that. Eric, what games do you play when you go to the undisclosed location? So when we go to undisclosed locations, we like having some fun. I mainly play poker, which it's more of a skill game versus gambling. I'm not like a straight up gambler. Like I'll place the odd sports wager every now and then, but it's not like my main thing. Like I don't play in the pit except for craps. And also, like, I'm not slot machine person. So and mainly poker, a little bit of craps, a little bit of sports betting. That's about it. Cody's nuts. The contract thing with TJ could get ugly. I feel like JJ's contract puts a burden on the team because of the nature of it. I personally don't want the highest paid anything hogging cap space. When's Dalton gonna get here? O-line more like what line? I mean Reisner, maybe after week 1, after they see what happens. They can work out where JJ and TJ gets paid, but it also could complicate things if they do bring Kirk Cousins back. Gus Bus Gaming. But also what they could do is they could let it ride with TJ and then give him the franchise tag next year. But, I mean, maybe those illnesses and injuries continue. Gus Bus Gaming, what position battle still has the most uncertainty? I think they're pretty good to go. I mean, cornerback has really sorted itself out. Defensive line is pretty good. I mean, off ball. Pace is going to be in the mix no matter what. I mean, Pace is going to start. He's at minimum going to be in the mix. Receivers sorted out. Offensive line is pretty much sorted out. Yeah. With King Kenna, if he's still dinged up, I think Powell's going to be the kick and punt returner. So, there you go. JL Productions. Besides JJ and Kirk, who do you think will be this year's Vikings MVP? Daniil. I think Daniil's in a contract year. He's hungry. He's hangry. And Flores is going to use him properly. So I think Daniil's going to have a great year. Walter Cronkite, is there any possibility Hitman is back next year? And if so, what does this year look like? If so, what does this year look like that spurred his return? Like, if the Vikings get really close to winning a Super Bowl, maybe Harrison runs it back for one more year. But this does feel like it's, the end of the road. And frankly, Lewisian was drafted to replace Harrison Smith. And I think that Kwesi's plan from day one was to phase out Harrison along with Kendricks and Thielen, et cetera, this offseason. But with Scene's injury, sort of set things back. And Harrison, respect. I mean, he took like a 50% pay cut to run it back for one more season. But I think this is likely going to be the end. Let's hear. Jack Lewis. What would it take for Kirko to be a Hall of Fame quarterback? Would one Super Bowl be enough? Could he make it? Play another, say, 5-10 years of top 10 caliber football? He'd have to at least win one Super Bowl, although that's not a prerequisite because I think Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. But if he plays the way that he did last year for another 5-6 seasons, which will be asking a lot, I mean, he'd be 40. I think that stats or just accumulation of stats wise, I think that he would be in the conversation, and Super Bowl win especially would be great. Also, I mean, if Kirk went into the Hall of Fame, he has to do Kirko Chains as his bust, right? A bajillion %, preferably with the Fu Manchu. Anders Schus. I'm more surprised the Vikings not signing any offensive line help, or Kirk still not getting a Cole sponsorship. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, but also I don't think Kohl's needs to advertise because, I mean, there's not a lot of Kohl's commercials. Like, there's a lot of circulars, like in print media still. Also, it's a Wisconsin company, so it's whatever. So, although that doesn't necessarily preclude them because Quick Trip sponsors, the Vikings, and Quick Trip is a Wisconsin-based company as well. The commercials were PAs like, and he's filling up the tank, and he's loose, or something like that. It's funny. Actually, they're both surprising. Enclave World, not football related, but in your opinion, was the most useless idea? My pick would be having Braille on drive-through ATMs. Oh, because blind people generally don't drive? I get it. Most useless idea? I don't know, like, we're such a legalese country. Everyone's lawyered up. And I feel like some of the warnings on like antifreeze where it says, hey, don't drink this, where it's like, does that really need to be there? Or if you watch a car commercial and like the car and stunt driver's doing something crazy, or it's like CGI, and at the bottom it says, don't try this at home. It's like, why do we need that warning? Huh, bro? Because one person would try it, and then their lawyer would just be like, it did not say don't try this at home. So we're suing for damages, both emotional and punitive, where it's just, nah. Wrigley Easton. Or you'll see us on like CPG, consumer packaged goods, like some food items, where it's like, don't eat the packaging. Oh, man. Simmons just got sent to the Giants. Should the Vikings trade for Wusu Komura? Yes. I love Joke. He's a joker. He's a smoker. He's a midnight toker. I absolutely loved him on Notre Dame. I want him on the Vikings. And I think he would be perfect with Flores. But, no. Blake, did you ever think you would gain the following subscriber count you have today? I didn't think anyone would watch. That's the thing. But I definitely value every single person that gives us the time of day, because there's a lot of options out there, and people's time is valuable. And the fact that you guys choose to spend 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes with me every day, it's fantastic. Even though you're pooping right now. Bodie, what would you think about resigning Linval or Sue? I'd sign Linval. Sure, why not? Turbo Prelude. If you could go back and give yourself the athleticism to play and skill to play in the NFL, what position would you play? Edge rusher. Edge rusher, because it's a premium position. You get paid a ton. Sometimes you don't have to stop the run. And also, if you succeed 4% of the time, you're a legend. That's why I feel bad for offensive tackles, because they could have a 97% win rate, but if your edge rusher gets loose for one play, especially late in the game, one game-changing play, a sack, a strip sack, pressure that leads to an interception or a turnover, I mean, that you suck, even though you won 96, 97% of the time. So, yeah, I'm taking edge rusher. There you go. Joshua. Should the Vikings trade up some assets to acquire picks for the next draft? I would like to acquire some more picks. TJ, Daniil, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, I mean, if the Vikings are booty at the trade deadline, sure. But as of right now, nah. Planes and gains. The O-line is the same as last year's, and last year's O-line was the best we've had in years. I'm not saying our O-line is good by no means, but it seems like people are more worried about it this year than last. Why? Well, I think it's more the results from last year, where Dalvin had a career low yards per carry, and Kirk had a career high in sacks and pressures, but also you have to factor in injuries there. I mean, Ezra was dinged up. O'Neal obviously tore his Achilles. Darrisaw missed time twice, and Bradbury missed the back end of the season. So all 5 of them healthy, I think could be a decent offensive line. But last year had a lot of factors at play. Abul, I don't think the 49ers gave up on Lance for a day 3 selection. Would you give? So this is before the trade. I mean, I would have given up a 5th rounder, but 4th is nah. Ian, since the Cardinals are clearly tanking and also we lost, with them trading Isaiah Simmons for basically nothing, could this be a chance to trade for Budda Baker on the cheap? He already wants out of Arizona. Yes, but also where do you play him? I mean, I guess replace Budda for Beasley. We'll take that. User. I love Budda at Washington. Now, did Budda have crossover with Byron Murphy Jr. At Washington? I think they did. Yeah. Of course, they had crossover in Arizona. User, what other interior offensive lineman can we get other than Dalton Risner? Come on up for the rest of them. When are we going to give up on Ed? Well, Ingram did improve towards the end of last year, so hopefully that carries on into this year. Other than Risner, I don't know, Jason Peters, even though he's 41, he did succeed at guard last year with the Cowboys. Odea Boucher, the Vikings had in for a tryout like a month ago. Justin Pugh is still out there. I mean, there's like Andrew Norwell, like Trey Turner. Like, there's a lot of name guys. And at this point, like, you're focused on this year. You're not focused on the future. So bring him in for the league minimum. Who cares? JS, if the Hawk hold-in results in a trade, what can the Vikings expect in a trade? Also sign Jason Peters. Yes on Jason Peters. Hawk, I don't know, probably about what they gave to the Lions, 3rd and 4th, somewhere in there. Connor May, random flashback, Vikings versus Bucks 2020, Dan Bailey shenanigans, and Jeff Gladney got robbed of the best pick 6 ever. RIP'd him. Yeah, definitely rest in power, Jeff Gladney. Where, I mean, the fix was in that game. First off, they called a pass interference on a Hail Mary before halftime, which never happens. Or it was defensive holding, one of the two. Yeah, Gladney got robbed of a pick 6, where it went a 101-yard pick 6 because it was Evans in the front left corner of the end zone, and Gladney clearly intercepted it. It would have ran it back, and Dan Bailey shanked it. Also, I mean, the Bucs had the #1 defense in the league that year. That was the year they won the Super Bowl, and Dalvin tore their ass up in the first half. Man, like Dalvin had like 8 yards per carry and 100+ yards in the first half or something like that. I mean, Dalvin was a dude that day, man. Yeah. But what could have been? OC Tane. Who would you pick to fill the middle of the offensive line? Let's give Kirk extra 2 seconds. Jason Peters, Justin Pugh, Dalton Risner. I'll sign all 3. I don't care at this point. Justin Miller, just making an observation, but all the hype around Jordan Love playing really good has been every team's 2nd and 3rd team defenses. Your thoughts on this? I think since the Packers do have a national following, I think that the national media jabroni haircuts have been trying to fluff them up a little bit too much, but we'll see when the rubber hits the road. Vikings next quarterback when Kirk leaves. Give a hot take. Ooh, hot take. Drake May will have a very poop season this year, and then he'll drop to the teens, and then the Vikings will trade up and go get him. Armando, JT28 to the Vikes. My name is Armand. I'm 12, and I love your videos. Danny Skull from Chi-Town. What up? Powerful Chicago. Lou Malnati's. Love it, man. TG, Trey Lance is a Viking this season, next season, or never? Probably never at this point. Actually, well, maybe in like 3 years. Wild Bumbly Lee. Will we ever give up on Oli Udoh or bring back Big Dog Jason Peters? Well, I think Oli Udoh is done after this year, I would still bring in Jason Peters. I don't care at this point. Like I said, Hayden Wayne, is it possible the Vikings to pay TJ and JJ now? Yes. Yes. And with Brzezinski, I mean, you could structure it where it's actually favorable for the Vikings this year and next year. Q Spinmaster, would you rather have this year's second-round pick or take back Hawkinson? I'll take Hawkinson. Yeah. Jonathan Cucci, if Vikings somehow wind up with balance, do they cut Mullins? Oh, I think I was supposed to say Trey Lance, and then I got autocorrected. But, nah, I think they would have cut Mullins either way. Janky, if you could have any player from any team right now, who would it be? Mahomes. Nah. Scooby, who's the best current commentator in the NFL? Commentator. I think Randy Moss is really good in pregame. In terms of like in-game, I actually think Mark Sanchez is really good. I think RG3 is really good when he's not trying to be funny. Although when he's trying to be funny, he's actually pretty funny. I've always liked Charles Davis. For play-by-play, I mean, Al Michaels is still the GOAT, except he is getting a little bit older. I've always liked Ian Eagle is good. Kevin Harlan, obviously, is actually... No, Kevin Harlan, Kurt Warner. They do Monday Night Football for the radio, Westwood One. I think that they should have been the Monday Night Crew versus Buck and Aikman, but ESPN is spending their money ridiculously. Yeah. But yeah, Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner, they have really good chemistry. I think Kurt Warner's really good as well. Frankly, I think they should both of them on TV. Let's see. User, did you ever keep a promise that you would buy stock in the Packers display behind you in your videos, or when they won the division 2 years ago? Yes. It was right there. It's the world's smallest stock certificate. Actually, I should probably do that. Timothy announcing, did Kwesi take out a life insurance policy, or does Kirk have his Spielman blinders in regarding the interior offensive line? It's a good question. Also, I've been trying to watch Peaky Blinders, but there's too much stuff. User, would you rather watch a meaningless regular season game on TV and a playoff game in person, or a playoff game on TV and attend a meaningless regular season game? Attend the playoff game. Yeah. Actually, attend a playoff game where I'm not even involved. Like going to Arrowhead Chiefs Bills for the AFC title game, that would be really sweet. That would be awesome, man. Merle, in your video predicting 2023 Vikings schedule, you predicted the Vikings go 13-4, but in more recent video, Vikings go 12-4. What made you less confident in the Vikings? I don't know. Just that day, I was feeling. Wait, no. How'd they go 12-4? Probably 12-5. I don't know. Just various vacillates from day to day. Skolzer, any hope in the offensive line? Yeesh. If they stay healthy and continuity, it's going to win the day. Reptar, is Trey Lance the most hyped yet unproven prospect ever? Blah 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 da da da. I mean, you're betting on traits versus production. Versus, if you're only betting on production, Case Keenum would have been the #1 overall pick versus going undrafted. But yeah, betting on traits, with the arm, the intelligence, the mobility, the size, the frame, the accuracy at times. It's always coaches and GMs always have ego. It's always like, "Mama, I can change him." That's exactly what's going on with the Cowboys right now. But yeah, I mean, he's still raw and he needs reps. Like I said, the best thing that could happen to Trey Lance if he played in the XFL. Guapsui, gut feeling, which rookie quarterback has potential to succeed the most? Young Richardson's. I think Bryce Young is going to be good, but I think Richardson has an unlimited ceiling. Absolutely unlimited. Sports Supply, Jordan Addison is him. Hard agree. And Ivo, trade for Patrick Queen. Yes. I mean, even though the Vikings, Hicks is done this year. Asamoah and Pace are the future, but I mean, you could find a way to work in Queen. I mean, I'm gonna have Asamoah play like the hybrid safety type role, like Metellus does. I mean, it's basically one for one. But that's it. That is this week's Q&A. You guys are the best. Thanks to everyone for tossing in questions. But you know what to do. Skol, production value.